Rwby, Volume 8, Episode 8 is the 100th episode. Congratulations to the Rwby. It's been a long time coming. And man, this episode, it reads like a slasher movie, honestly. Like, for sure, for sure. But we open up after the events of last episode, which was months ago. Man, that break, brutal, but some much needed downtime I hope the Rwby was able to get. But the invasion of Salem's forces just running rampant all over the city. Grows awakened by the battles going on outside, and then he hears a crow, sees a crow, and then boom! Massive explosion in the prison. And everything comes down. And it's the question, did Crow survive? Did Robin survive? Hell, did Jock survive? Kudos if Jock died. That would be some messed up crap, but couldn't happen to a better guy. But we cut away from there. We pick up with Penny being brought to Klein, and despite the fact that she is in fact a robot, she still can be stitched up at least so she's not leaking fluids all over the place. There must be a better way of saying that. Unfortunately, the power goes down. We actually have May checking in because while she did run away to do other things to help the people on the ground, not just up in the city in the sky, she's still like, they're kids. I'm at least gonna check in on them. And Rwby is kind of at a loss as what they can really do at the moment. They're gonna try their best, but May's not too sure. At this point, so much is just going wrong all over the place. There's no telling who needs the most help at this point. But Klein interjects. He's just like, look, you do what you can where you can. And the first order of business, get the power back on so I can make sure these two young ladies, namely Penny and Nora, are taken care of to the best of my abilities. Also, I've only just connected the dots that Klein's whole multiple personality disorder thing, he has 7 personalities. He's literally the 7 dwarves. I don't know if I had this revelation before and just forgot, but it's just like, oh, oh, that's all of the personalities. I've seen them all at this point. Man, that's cool. That's actually a very clever way of doing that. But in comes Willow Schnee, still sloshed as all get out, but she does, she's still a smart cookie, if nothing else. I'm glad we're actually getting to see her in this volume. And she suggests, it's just like, well, we have a backup generator and all that good stuff. You know, all high class hoity toity Schnee Dust Company personnel have backup generators. It reeks of elitism and literal white privilege because there's no white as all get out. The white is the white privilege. But she's just like, yeah, might as well come in handy to people who actually need it. But Whitley takes it a step further. He realizes that with that, there's also a backup system that allows access to the delivery trucks for the Dust Company. And they have remote access. And using those trucks, he can actually send aid and help with the evacuation of the various people who are down on the ground in Mantle. It's just like, yo, Whitley, way to go. Like, man, my heart is literally full on how good of a person you are slowly becoming. Like, I'm glad he's taken this turn. And as Rwby and Blake head out to get the power up and running, we get something that we don't have much of, a heart to heart between Blake and Rwby. And honestly, their relationship is probably the most underdeveloped of Team Rwby. With Rwby and Yang, they're literally related. Yang and Weiss, that could probably use a little bit more improvement. Yang and Blake, we know where that's going. Blake and Weiss, we've had that whole progression. But Blake and Rwby? not so much. And Blake explains that, whereas Rwby is starting to doubt herself a lot, she doesn't want Rwby to do that because Rwby reminds Blake of herself when she was a little bit younger, when she was optimistic to where she would just go for things, do her best, do her fullest to make sure things would work out for everyone. But she lost that optimism along the way because of Adam, because of the White Fang, because of everything she had been through. But she, despite the fact that Rwby is younger than her, she turns to Rwby because Rwby is a source of inspiration to stand up, to keep fighting the good fight, to do what you can, where you can, while you can, to never give up, to fight until the last, and even then, keep on fighting. It's a beautiful moment, honestly. It really is a beautiful moment. We also have, Whitley managing to get into Jacques' computer now that the power is back on, but the Hound is here. And as Rwby and Blake engage with the Hound, Weiss, leaves Whitley by his lonesome because she needs to check on her girls. And the Hound, oh man, this thing is so intimidating. It literally is like a slasher villain. And how powerful, how clever, and the fact that it talks. It would be fine if it didn't talk, but this thing is terrifying as it manages to beat Rwby down, almost destabilizing her aura. And he captures her for some reason, that I'm just like, why is he capturing Rwby? Why would he go after Rwby? That wasn't his mission, and he outright tries to fly off with her. But our girl, best girl Blake, does her best to hold it down as Weiss arrives on the scene and tells Klein, look, make sure everyone is okay, keep everyone together, do your best to just keep everyone protected. Just sending out that message. But Willow's nerves really get to her, and she goes running off in a panic. At the same time, Penny awakens, spurred on by the altered programming that Watts had, plugged into her at the behest of Ironwood. And as she awakens, the two sides of herself clash, the programming side and the human side of her, honestly. And with the added power of the Winter Maiden, it's really kicking up a storm, literally. Meanwhile, outside, Weiss, brings out her new summons. I love this shot. It's very beautiful. Only for the grim centipedes, millipedes, whatever, to just come bursting in, adding on to the trouble that the girls are already in. However, the Hound notices Penny's aura. And with that, Rwby realizes, oh, it's not after me, it's after Penny. Because Penny's blood? I'm gonna go with blood. And, that's such clever staging to have it be such an interesting thing that just threw the Hound off. If the Hound was specifically going after Penny, it would have got Penny. But here, it's just like it's thrown off. It's going in various different directions. It's not sure because of what it's smelling. It's deeply fascinating. But the Hound straight up drops Rwby, sending her plummeting to the ground, shattering her aura. And, Blake tells Weiss, go after the Hound, go protect your family, I'll get Rwby. Only for yet another powerful Grimm to just show right on up. And this one, particularly disgusting, it spits acid. Meanwhile, Penny is just so overwhelmed, not sure of what she can do to fight this programming that's dominating her will. But in a moment of lucidness where Nora has woken up to a certain degree, she tells Penny that this is a part of you. The programming, that side of you calling out, telling you to do something else, that is still you. You have control of it, no one else. And it is in that moment that Penny is at least temporarily, able to regain herself. And it's such a nice moment. It's very sweet. But, Jacques Klein lets Weiss know that Willow and Whitley are not there. They're not all together, as Willow has gone running back to the bottle, but then she hears a crash. The hound has entered the building. But thanks to Willow going to the comms instead of the bottle, she's able to help Weiss fight off the beast, but it goes running off. As Willow monitors the hound's position, she realizes it's gone after Whitley. But as the hound closes in on Whitley, even telling him, she's like, "You can't hide. You can't hide." Like, so intimidating. Like, full on reminiscent of that moment in Lord of the Rings where the hobbits are hiding from, what was it, the Nazguls? I think that's what they were. It's been a long time since I've done any Lord of the Rings reading or watching. But thanks to none other than Willow's semblance, which is a wild boar, she's able to take the hound off guard, saving Whitley, telling him, "Run, boy, run!" But Whitley remembers, hey, gotta make sure these transports head out to save innocent people. So he does just that, and they book it with the hound in quick pursuit. But going full May from Overwatch, Weiss brings up an ice wall, and while it's not going to hold the hound forever, she's able to make sure her family can run to safety. Meanwhile, Blake is tangling with this worm Grim and tries to call out to Rwby that she could really use a hand here, that she really needs some help, as the Grim is able to overcome Blake. But in comes Rwby like a boss, slicing down the Grim. However, they hear a scream as the hound goes racing towards that scream, which is none other than Penny. It was only a momentary reprieve. She's being taken over by the altered programming, which tells her, unlock the vault, then self-terminate. Which, I'm like, yo, that's an unnecessary added thing to put on there. But Penny is cornered by the hound. And as the hound manages to overcome Penny, in comes Rwby, Blake, and Weiss. But the hound full on takes Penny as a hostage, but Rwby has had enough and unleashes the power of her silver eyes to overcome the hound, sending it crashing through the window. Oddly enough, not destroying it. Strange. And as the Blake and Weiss tend to Penny, we see the true face of the hound. A faunus, a half-dead one at that. And yeah, creepy factors bumped up to 11. Like, Rwby realizes, oh god, it's a person. And if Salem can do this to a person, what else could she do? And this person has silver eyes, just like Rwby. What does that mean? What does it mean? Has she specifically targeted people with silver eyes? Are silver eyes the most potential to be taken over by the grim entity? Or is it just out of some sick, sadistic nature of Salem's? It really brings about a lot of questions as to where this is all leading. And at this, is it possible that Summer was subjected to this as well? Oof. Could Rwby end up fighting her own mother? An undead version of her mother? Because you look at the hound, right, like nice and proper, like his skin is full on coming off of his flesh. This is a person barely living. Barely living. But the hound then closes in on the girls, only to be crushed to death under the armor of the Schnee family, thanks to the timely assistance of Whitley and Willow. Like, yeah, okay, cool. It's good to know that this thing can at least still be crushed to death. And yeah, he's dead. The Grim full on fades off of the bones. Oh, that's a little too hardcore for me. Like, this episode should have came out on Halloween, because, dude, whoa. That was grim dark. That's some grim dark stuff right there. But then we pick up what happened with the beginning of the episode. Why did the prison get bombed? Of course, it was Cinder. And oh god, Cinder has a grim arm. It's full. It has to be attached to her nervous system to some degree. Ooh, that's Salem's plan. You know, once Cinder gets all the powers of the Maiden, Salem just takes over Cinder and turns her into her new hound. Yo, that is sick. That is so sick. And I'm not talking sick cool. That's sick nasty. As Cinder has come for Watts and apparently has her own plans for Watts as she manages to escape with him into the night. What an intense episode. I loved seeing Willow just overcome her alcoholism, but honestly, Willow's alcoholism, I thought it was a product of being with Jacques and bearing his children, but no, there seems to be something deeper there. She only really went into a true panic attack knowing that a Grim was present in the house, which, yo, what happened to this woman? I'm very curious. And the beast stalking Rwby and just, ah, man, that moment was so cool. I also really do love these moments towards the credits where you get to see, it's just like, oh, here's where the big rubble is, here's where you can have the beast, the hound, walk, and it would be the easiest place to animate him on. Like, oh, that's so good. And that heart to heart between Rwby and Blake, ah, just much needed sweetness for the soul, and a nice bit of a nice lighter moment for what was to come right afterwards. And the hound, oh my god. Yo, the crew really took things a step further with this. Like, I'm more terrified by the implications of this than the Hound itself. And the Hound was already terrifying. Like, this is some dark stuff. And how many more creatures like this exist? I can't imagine Salem stopping at one. But that's the end of the episode. Tell me your thoughts and more in the comments section below. What do you think Cinder has in store for Watts? What did you think about the Hound? The heart-to-heart between Blake and Rwby? The future of Cinder with this revelation? And what do you think the backstory of Weiss's mother, Willow, could possibly be? Did she lose her father to the Grim ultimately? Really makes you wonder. So tell me your thoughts and more in the comment section below. Subscribe and hit the bell icon. Like, comment, whatever you feel. And until next time, I've been Duuz-Diz-Din, and I will see you later. Bye-bye.